The ungovernable man, sovereignty, solitude, and the lie of modern love. Have you ever noticed how the freest men are the ones women can no longer seduce, or more accurately, control? They don't chase, they don't beg, they simply stand apart, self-contained, utterly sufficient. And somehow that drives everyone to a quiet panic, because modern connection isn't built on genuine devotion anymore. It's built on dependency, on the quiet, collective fear that you might actually walk away and realize you don't need anything. They label it romance, but underneath it's just a transactional system of control wearing a flattering perfume. You've been told your entire life that happiness means being chosen, that a partner completes you, that solitude is a clear sign that something is fundamentally wrong with your existence. But what if the truth is the exact opposite? What if every man who consciously chooses to become whole, to be radically alone, becomes ungovernable? What if the greatest rebellion left in this hyper-connected world isn't in conquest, but in detachment? Because the man who no longer needs to be loved cannot be manipulated by it. And that, more than anything, is what truly terrifies the system. Arthur Schopenhauer warned that desire is the root of suffering, the constant, restless striving that can never be satisfied. Carl Jung went further, implicitly suggesting that wholeness begins where need ends. The ultimate question is not why a culture of dependence fears the self-sufficient man. It's why a society built on insecurity fears the man who is finally, definitively free. The exhaustion of performance. You wake up tired, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. You are tired of performing, tired of constantly auditioning for your own worthiness, tired of endlessly proving your value to people who will never truly be satisfied because their need for control is infinite. Every interaction begins to feel like a transaction, a wearying emotional commerce. You give attention, and you receive temporary validation. You withdraw care, and they withdraw approval. Back and forth it goes, a soul-exhausting performance where nobody wins, and everyone obsessively keeps score. You have become a reluctant puppet in someone else's exhausting emotional theater. And the strings that bind you, they are made of expertly manufactured guilt, of false obligation, and of the paralyzing fear that if you simply stop performing, you will be abandoned, forgotten, or labeled as fundamentally broken. The world, which profits from your inadequacy, has convinced you that needing less makes you defective, that firm boundaries make you cold, that silence makes you cruel, and that choosing your own peace makes you selfish. This is the great lie. Jung noted that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. You feel drained because you have been giving from an empty well of external validation. You feel manipulated because every gesture of care, every moment of intimacy, every act of kindness came with an unspoken invoice, carrying a hidden expectation of reciprocation or binding obligation. But here is what they don't tell you. Exhaustion is not weakness, it is clarity breaking through. The shadow and the mirror. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, everything we refuse to acknowledge about ourselves. The parts we've disowned, the difficult truths we've buried, the desires we've locked away because they don't fit the comfortable narrative society demands we tell. Jung believed that the failure to recognize and integrate these shadow elements is the root of most conflict between people. When we don't face what we have hidden inside, we inevitably project it onto others, making them carry the burden of our own denial. Jung wrote, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's consciousness, the blacker and denser it is." Here is the consequence of this psychological truth for you. When you choose conscious solitude, people don't see you. They see their own rejected independence and panic. When you set clear, non-negotiable boundaries, they don't hear no. They hear the terrifying echo of their own suppressed desire for freedom and self-possession. When you walk away from manipulation, they don't witness strength. They witness a mirror reflecting their own gilded cage, and people fundamentally hate mirrors. Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most people have denied their primal need for independence so deeply that they've forgotten it even exists. They've surrendered their ultimate sovereignty for the illusion of temporary security. They've traded their profound selfhood for the fleeting comfort of others' approval. They've bartered their inner peace for validation from people who don't even truly know themselves. And when you refuse to make that transactional trade, you become dangerous. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are ungovernable. You have discovered the one secret they are terrified to admit. You do not need their approval to exist. You do not need their validation to have inherent value. You do not need their presence to be whole. Schopenhauer saw this psychological forfeiture clearly. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. This terrifies the dependent system, because if one person can be fundamentally alone and still be whole, then maybe the entire edifice they built their identity on is a beautiful, necessary fraud. Maybe the relationships they are clinging to are simply prisons they have spent years decorating to look like homes. Maybe their devotion is just dependency wearing a prettier name. You have integrated the shadow that they project outward. You have faced the uncomfortable truth they refuse to see, and in doing so, you have become the screen upon which they project their deepest, most paralyzing fear, the fear that they might be fundamentally alone, even while physically surrounded by others. As Jung observed, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The rage you receive isn't about you. It is the existential rage of the psychologically imprisoned toward the man who found the exit and chose to walk through it. Schopenhauer's deception of love. Arthur Schopenhauer saw what most romantic ideologies refuse to acknowledge. He wrote that romantic love is nature's most elaborate deception. What we call love, the passion, the obsession, the desperate conviction that this person is the one, is, in his view, biology's trick to ensure continuation and reproduction. Nature does not care about your personal, long-term happiness. It cares only about genetic survival, about using your most powerful emotions as temporary puppets to serve its relentless agenda. Schopenhauer stated plainly, "The only true purpose of every communion in love is procreation." The intense fever of attraction, that certainty, that magnetic pull, it is not destiny. It is powerful, ancient chemistry. It is your biology hijacking your consciousness, casting a shimmering, beautiful veil over the raw, mechanical nature of the game. He concluded that marriages of love are often intensely unhappy precisely because their aim is the perpetuation of the species, not the long-term pleasure or peace of the individual. Nature doesn't care if you're happy forever. It simply ceases to care once its primary objective is achieved. You wake up years later and realize you've been serving a biological agenda that was never truly yours, playing a role in a script you never consciously wrote, following instructions from a merciless program that has no interest in your well-being beyond your temporary usefulness to its goals. But you have seen through the veil. You have recognized the fever of attraction for what it is, a temporary beautiful insanity designed to bind you to biology's imperative. You have understood that the compulsion to possess isn't genuine connection, that the obsession to merge isn't intimacy, that the desperation to complete yourself through another isn't love, it is programming. And you have committed apostasy against nature's oldest religion. You have refused to sacrifice your sovereignty on the altar of genetic continuity. This transformation elevates you from a servant into a philosopher, from a puppet into a person, from an actor into the author of your own existence. You are no longer buying what they are selling, not because you are incapable of love, but because you have become conscious of the game. And once you see the trap, you can never be lured back into it with the same blinding effectiveness. This is why they call you bitter, why they insist you must be broken, why they diagnose you with a problem. Because the alternative is too threatening to consider, that you might be right, that the entire edifice of romantic ideology, the movies, the songs, the social scripts, might be built on sand, a beautiful fraud passed down through generations like a cherished heirloom that was always fundamentally worthless. You don't argue against their dream, you simply refuse to dream it. And in your powerful refusal, the dream begins to collapse for those who witness your peace. Sovereignty in solitude, the path to wholeness. You disappear, but not because you are weak. You disappear because you have consciously chosen peace over performance. Let them call it avoidance. Let them diagnose it as fear of commitment. Let them label it however they need to maintain their narrative. You know the truth. Withdrawal is not retreat when you are walking toward yourself. Silence is not emptiness when you finally stop filling it with noise to avoid your own difficult thoughts. Boundaries are not walls when they are protecting something profoundly sacred, your sovereignty. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming a single, unified, undivided self, what he called self-realization. This does not happen in crowds. It does not happen while you are frantically performing for an audience. It does not happen while you are splitting yourself in half to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. It happens in the solitude you've been taught to fear. Schopenhauer understood this essential link. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free. That space you have been running from, it is not a void, it is a crucible. It is the terrifying, necessary furnace where the fragmented parts of you get forged into something whole, where the persona masks fall away, where the actor finally becomes the author of his own existence. You have been conditioned to believe that needing nothing makes you broken. But here is the secret they will never tell you. The man who needs nothing possesses everything. Power has never belonged to those who desire most intensely. It belongs to those who have the radical capacity to walk away without looking back. Your refusal is your complete reclamation of self. Emerson warned, "Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members." You are not rejecting genuine connection. You are refusing to trade your selfhood for the illusion of it. You are not avoiding intimacy. You are declining to participate in the exhausting marketplace where affection is currency and attention is commerce. You have seen through the machinery. You recognize care as control, devotion as desperation, love as leverage, and you have made the ultimate radical choice to opt out. This is strength in its purest form. Not the loud, aggressive strength of conquest, but the quiet, immovable strength of sufficiency. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need permission to exist on your own terms. As Emerson wisely stated, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. You have discovered this truth not through philosophy, but through painful, direct experience. Through nights spent alone that felt more honest than years spent performing. Through silence that revealed more than 1,000 conversations ever could. Through solitude that offered more clarity than any relationship ever promised. Your withdrawal is not punishment. It is protection. It is sacred self-preservation. It is the final sovereign refusal. You are not running away from others. You are walking directly toward your ultimate self. And that journey, by definition, must be taken alone. The lie of completion. Listen carefully. The system profits from your insecurity. Every advertisement, every movie, every song, every social script you've internalized, they all deliver the same insidious message. You are incomplete. You need someone else to make you whole. You need external validation to have value. You need constant connection to prove you matter. This is the central lie that keeps the machinery of dependency running. Because once you believe you are insufficient alone, you become controllable. You perform for approval. You chase validation. You sacrifice your inner peace for temporary reassurance that you are worthy. But you have started to see through it. You have begun to recognize the transaction hiding behind every "I love you," the control masquerading as care, the manipulation disguised as devotion. And slowly, quietly, you have made a revolutionary discovery. You were always enough. Not because you've achieved something, not because you've earned it, not because someone finally validated you, but because wholeness was never something to be achieved externally. It was something to be remembered internally. Jung spoke of the self, the deepest archetype of wholeness. It was always there. You just forgot it existed while you were busy trying to complete yourself through others. Every relationship that drained you was teaching you. You can't become whole while remaining half by dependence. Every manipulation you endured was showing you. You can't know yourself while performing for an audience. Every boundary you set was revealing. Your peace matters infinitely more than their comfort with your compliance. You are not broken for choosing yourself. You are awake. You have done the math that society forbids. 1 can equal 1. Whole and complete, requiring no addition to achieve wholeness. This is the ultimate knowledge that makes you dangerous. Not your anger, not your isolation, but your contentment in the space where they find only terror. Your comfort in your own company, while they scramble to fill every silence. You have stopped believing in the dream they sold you, and in stopping your belief, you have threatened the entire system. Because if you can be happy and whole alone, what does that say about everyone who is miserable together? You have become a mirror, and people relentlessly try to destroy what they cannot integrate. But here is the final truth. You are not their enemy. You are their possibility. You are the living proof that the cage was always unlocked, that the chains were always imaginary, that the prison was always of their own making. You have achieved individuation. You've faced the shadow. You've brought the denied parts of yourself into consciousness. And in becoming whole, you've discovered something they can't conceive. Freedom is not found in addition, but in subtraction. Not in acquiring more, but in needing less. In needing nothing at all from a world built entirely on manufactured need. You no longer perform for an audience you didn't choose. You no longer seek validation from a system designed to profit from your insecurity. And in that ultimate refusal, you've discovered something extraordinary. When you stop needing their world, you stop being controlled by it. This is your achievement, sovereignty. Not isolation, but integration. Not loneliness, but wholeness. You walk among the crowd, but you are no longer of the crowd. You engage on your own terms or not at all. And this simple act of self-possession is revolutionary because most people have forgotten they ever had a self to possess. They hate you not for your solitude, but for your liberation. Your existence implies that freedom was always possible. The question now is not about them. The only question that has ever truly mattered is this: are you brave enough to believe in your own wholeness? Not in theory, but as the fundamental truth you live, even when they call you broken for it, even when standing in your truth means standing alone. Because the key to the cage, the key to your freedom, is the hardest thing in the world. Accepting that you are always free to walk away. Free to choose self-possession over performance. Free to choose your own sovereign peace over their compliant comfort. The only question left: will you use that freedom to become who they want? Or will you use it to finally discover who you are? Choose wisely. Choose honestly. Choose yourself. Because in the end, That's the only choice that was ever truly yours.